Hello. Acceptance by Emi Nietfeld. This is a memoir, as it says, a memoir with a very striking photo of the memoirist on the cover. And it's a really good story, and I enjoyed the book very, very much. Why did I think it's actually an outstanding memoir. Why is it an outstanding memoir? One reason is because the writer looks at herself as well as looking at life and what happened to her and her disturbing in many ways story and how she recovered and does is critical of herself in certain ways. She's not she doesn't particularly give herself a pass. Not that she did anything horribly awful, but she saw where she had aired, which is a little bit different than some of the other people involved. I was talking to a friend about this book and recommended it to a friend, and they said that they would want to write a memoir themselves, but concerned about what a sister would think or a mother would think or this or that person, older boyfriend would think. But you can't do that if you're a writer. I mean, names can be changed and so forth. And as she says at the end, but you have to tell some sort of truth or some sort of a story that seems truthful enough. So what goes on in this is she's what, about 30 years old now, I guess, and she was from Minnesota, and her mother and her father had stayed together. She has an older brother, older half brother. I'm not quite sure what all that's about as far as her family lineup. I don't remember which. I guess it's her mother's other child. But the bulk of the story is dealing with her mother, who is a very serious and very bad hoarder. And her mother was also a crime scene photographer, she says. So she doesn't really go into all that much of the story, but somehow she had this union job as a crime scene photographer, and once her parents split up when she was like 9 years old, mom's hoarding really took off as far as buying things, going to sales of when they're getting rid of a lot of material, like she would buy like a whole bunch of Mickey Mouse watches or something like that, like 100 Mickey Mouse watches because they were such a deal. So mom had this kind of issue with hoarding, and I don't know if you've ever been to a house where there was a serious hoarding issue. I have, because I have a friend whose mother was, a tragic hoarder. I mean, she hoarded herself out of house and home. She ended up, had a two-story house with several rooms in a city, and ended up sleeping in the park because there was no place to sleep because of all the literal junk that was brought into the house and just piled up, like waist high all over the house. And I'd helped clean that house out at one time before it was to be sold. So Emmy had this kind of a mother, and her father was early in the acknowledging that he was actually a woman. So her father is transgender, and that caused. I'm not sure if that's why they split. The parents split, but around that time they split, and a long custody battle had Emmy end up with her mother, and then with this and that circumstance, as parents set their children against one or the other. Apparently, to this day, or to the day of this book was published, she had never spoken to her father again, or never saw her father again, who is now this woman named Michelle. So that's another whole part of the story that's kind of sketchy and strange in a way. But so what happens in the book is that Emmy has a great deal of problems early on with I think like in the fourth, is it the fourth grade? Early on, where she gets all involved with the medical industry, psychiatric industry, to doing things to fix her. And the problem here is that they just needed to fix her and didn't realize that the core of her problem was really her mother's problems. That her home was impossible to live in, and that her mother was really the issue. But the social workers, whatever, did not go to the mother's house, did not go and see that the place was covered with all this junk and no place to sleep, and the water was all turned off, no hot water, no water at all, and that there was dog shit and mouse feces everywhere and mice running everywhere, and that it was, completely unlivable. And not only that, the mother was, insane. So that set the author here onto a propelling cascade of bad happenstances that involved her ending up being, having nowhere to go, and ending up being in sort of some kind of a hospital mental clinic for a while with other young women. And also put on various psychiatric medicines that she never needed to begin with. So part of the story here is that we can see how a child can fall into the cracks when the problems are really the parents' problems and unacknowledged by authority power that is looking into the situation. So that's the big part of the story here. But while all this is going on, there is something particular in this woman, this young woman, and a hope for something better, a striving for something better. And she had an idea that in order to change her life situation and make her life better, she needed to get an education and get a good job so she could be independent. And she also read the terrain of the early 2020s to understand that in order to achieve this and make it all work, she had to get a full ride going to college, and also so she wouldn't have student loans the rest of her life, and also that she had to go to an elite institution so she could get work afterwards. I mean, we know now, and this has been going on for the past 20 years or so, that so many people have been getting college degrees and finding that there's no place for them on the work market, and that they end up working, a menial job and paying back a whole lot of student loans, and their life is just as ruined as if they didn't even ever go to school. I mean, if they had not gone to school and got the loans, they wouldn't have to pay all these loans. So and probably could have gotten the same waitressing job or working at retail or whatever. I know a woman in Long Island who was got graduated in 2008 or something, right at the .com thing, and was has been working basically retail since. So she goes from she has these goals and strives for these goals and does a lot of things to achieve these goals. She is interested in writing. She wants to be a writer. She also is thinking about going into pre-med, just because it's a good job, and so she has some kind of capacity to find all these ways to achieve this goal, like a writing contest that would have a big $10,000 prize, and various things like that. So all through the story, there's this drive of hers to achieve, and often she is shamed and told that this drive to achieve is actually what's causing her disturbances, causing her all the stress, and causing her to be miserable, which is not the case at all. It's the only thing she has of hope for the future. During one long section, she ends up going into foster care, and the foster care, as she's in Minneapolis, the foster care people are in Lakeville, which is some sort of far out a new suburb division from Minneapolis, and out there. She ends up being living with this couple who also have a daughter, and are very, like Christian, very middle American, watch TV a lot, and a lot that sit in their both in their loungers in front of the TV watching Deal or No Deal or whatever those shows are, and she. Those people kind of just want her to come down and watch TV with them, be part of the family, watch TV, not like study up in her room all the time. And they're the ones that shame her and say, like, the problem is that you're trying to do these things that are too hard, and as far as their point of view, impossible and undoable, and that she should just, chill out and be part of the family, which never really works out. So she's there for like a year or so. Anyway, through all this, she eventually does manage to achieve this goal of getting into Harvard, and that is the miraculous thing that really goes on in this book, in that she does get into Harvard after all these various runs and various difficulties. Now, the way I'm telling it maybe doesn't sound all that interesting to compel you to read the book, but I think it's a very, very excellent book because she's a really good writer, and she does tell the story in a very compelling sort of way. So I really liked the book. So, she talks about things that go on with men. Some, like, while she's even in Harvard, she has this boyfriend out in LA, completely across the country. And he's like 10 years older. And he's like got this weird fetish of wanting to get her. He doesn't drink himself, but he wants to get her drunk before having sex with her. He wants to have sex with passed out women. So it's like some kind of Bill Cosby trip here, where you give them some sort of drug or roofies, Spanish fly, knock them out, and then have sex with them. So she, there's various things about that go on with that, and it's kind of his little S&M trip. At least that's how he describes it. And I'm not in favor of BDSM, as I've said before. I don't know if anybody watched these videos before, but I think BDSM is kind of a sick thing, and somehow I think I think it's actually part of the reason that women can be attracted to it. I know that there are women who are attracted to it, and I feel like there's that weird notion that that somehow in the DNA of of us, it harkens back to the inquisitions and the witchcraft trials, in that compelling women to and torturing women and so forth, somehow making all that right again. I don't know, but that's just my crackpot idea about it. But ultimately, she ends up getting rid of that guy, and so she graduates, gets through difficulties at school. She does end up graduating from Harvard, and during the Harvard time, she gets involved with computer science, and she ends up being a computer science major, and then gets a $200,000 a year job at Google as a computer science person, and she describes what it's like at Google. And So from there, she ends up getting married, and so forth, and it's more or less a happier never that happier ever after story. Although she had lots of difficulty even through into her college years, dealing with all this PDS. Post traumatic stress disorder, about all these things that go on, as felt, as well as a sexual assault that happens in a hostel, particularly brutal sexual assault that happens in a hostel with a foreign fake Serbian guy, actually, in Budapest, Hungary, as she somehow between one of her being in school, she one summer she manages to go to Europe, and so I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I came up with reading this book. Probably one of the podcasts I listen to or watch, and it could have been because she is now a writer. She is not working in software anymore, as far as I know, and been a professional writer for a while, journalist. And she has a current story in Wired, which I'll connect to at the bottom of in the description for this video, a um, a story about surrogate rich Silicon Valley couple who hire a surrogate, and the baby dies, and then the rich Silicon Valley people end up suing, and trying to destroy and wanting this woman to be jailed because of the loss of this child that she got pregnant with, and ended up with diabetes and all this other stuff from the pregnancy. So it's a really kind of interesting story, but so you can listen to that if you want to. So yeah, I think that's enough for acceptance right now. If I think of anything else, I'll add it later. I talked about this book yesterday. I tried to make a video up in Central Park, but I was kind of rushed and was unhappy with the result of that. So this is actually take two here in my home, and acceptance by Emi Nietfeld and Nietfeld. Uh, and it's a really good book. So, if you want to read a really solid memoir, story of a woman, a young woman, trying to find her way into a decent life. And, I was just thinking after reading this, we all these things are happening while a lot of these things are still funded. The social workers and so forth are still kind of funded, and I wonder what is going to happen in the near future as the constraints of federal funding to all of these things continue to happen, and will more people, more young people, just be lost in the shuffle of not having proper care and not having people understand what's really going on here, and maybe falling into a situation where they really can't get out of. Whereas in the case of this book, she found a way to get out. She's an extraordinary woman. Now there's something about that. I mean, how she knew that she had to get this education. It didn't really come from her mother. Her mother, never really acknowledged her parents. Neither of them have never really acknowledged their part in what went on with her. Her mother, cannot acknowledge her difficulties, her disease of this hoarding. She cannot, acknowledge that now, and it's just like it's the blaming of the victim in a lot of cases that goes on. Like even with the assault that went on in Budapest, you said, well, you had a beer, that kind of a thing. It's like, no, it wasn't like she was drunk and having shots with the guy and put herself into a highly vulnerable situation. It's just kind of just what happened and how she was abused and used in this horrible situation. So, good book. I suggest reading it, and we'll talk to you another time.